Hey there, night wanderer. If you're hearing this, you found your way to SnoozyTor, where stories don't just tell history, they let you live inside it. Tonight's journey takes you far from comfort, into the fading heartbeat of the Eastern Front. No medals, no glory, just a nameless soldier walking west through snow, silence, and memory. They say the battle for Stalingrad ended in 1943, but for the men who walked away, the real war was learning how to keep walking. Through frost, through hunger, through the sound of their own footsteps echoing off the ghosts of yesterday. So dim your lights, lie back, and let this story pull you under. A lullaby for the lost, whispered from a road that never ends. You arrive before dawn. The train doors open to a world that sounds like thunder and breathes like smoke. The air tastes of ash and iron. Every building looks like it's been punched by a god. You grip your rifle tighter because it's the only thing that feels real anymore. They told you Stalingrad was the key to everything, the gate to the Volga, the heart of the East. But standing here, knee-deep in rubble, you realize something else. This isn't a city. It's a grave that hasn't finished burying itself. Your boots crunch over broken glass. Somewhere ahead, someone shouts your name, though it takes you a second to remember it's yours. A shell lands 2 streets over. The shockwave lifts the dust and turns daylight into fog. You don't flinch. Nobody does. Fear burned out weeks ago. What's left is instinct. You move when the others move. You stop when they stop. The commander waves you into a gutted apartment block. It used to be white, maybe. Now it's a skeleton of brick and bone. On the second floor, half the wall is gone, but there's a piano in the corner, scorched, cracked, one leg missing. Dieter wipes the dust from the keys. Half still work, he says. He plays something slow. A lullaby, maybe. You don't know the tune. The notes tremble at first, then rise, wandering into the cold air. Everyone goes quiet. Rifles rest across knees. The sound drifts through the shattered window and out over the street, where the snow catches it and scatters it like dust. For a moment, it's almost beautiful. Then someone starts crying. You pretend not to notice. Outside, the Soviets are everywhere. You can't see them, but you can feel them, in the walls, in the chimneys, beneath the floors. Every window hides a scope. Every shadow holds a shape. They don't need to move fast, they just wait for mistakes. You learned that on the first morning. 3 men gone in seconds. One tried to light a cigarette, one poked his head out to look, one didn't even do anything at all. After that, you crawl instead of walk. You whisper instead of talk. You become smaller, quieter, almost invisible. It's strange how quickly you adapt to terror. You start noticing odd details. The smell of burnt bread from a collapsed bakery, the way the frost outlines boot prints before fading, the sound of rats chewing on paper. You can't remember the last time you saw a tree, or a color that wasn't gray. They say the Soviets are defending every inch. You believe it. Once, through the scope of your rifle, you see a house bristling with sandbags and scrap metal. Pavlov's house, someone whispers. You don't know who Pavlov is, but you know the building. It's alive. Every window glints with defiance. The barrels sticking out look like the spines of a trapped animal refusing to die. Your officer calls it propaganda. You call it hope. Not for you, but for them. You almost admire it. At night, you sit in the ruins and listen to the wind crawl through the cracks. It makes the city sound alive again, whispering in a language only the dead understand. Someone asks what day it is. No one answers. The calendar burned weeks ago. You find a photograph under a pile of rubble. A family, smiling, standing in front of this same building when it still had windows. You turn it over. The back says, "For memory." You slide it into your pocket without thinking. When the bombing stops, you don't cheer. You just wait for the next round. That's the rhythm of Stalingrad now. Noise, silence, noise again. Silence is worse. It means they're moving. You fall asleep sitting up, back against the wall, rifle across your lap. Your dreams are short, mostly sounds. Footsteps on glass, a woman singing somewhere far away, the echo of piano keys that never finished the song. In the morning, snow has fallen inside the building. You brush it from your face and stand. The man beside you doesn't move. You touch his shoulder. He's stiff, pale, eyes open toward nothing. You take his gloves. They're still warm. Outside the air is still. Smoke drifts like prayer. You walk toward the edge of the street and stop. Across the way, through the haze, a banner hangs from a Soviet window. You can't read it, but you can guess what it says. Something about victory. You look down at your boots. The laces are frayed. You tie them tighter and whisper to no one, "Not yet." The city groans. Somewhere far off, a tank engine turns over. The war continues, patient, methodical, endless. And you realize something. The battle for Stalingrad isn't about land or rivers or supply lines. It's about who breaks first, the walls, the soldiers, or the soul. You feel the cold reach your bones and know your answer hasn't come yet. Boss, tell me, if you were here, would you still believe in the mission? Would you hold your rifle or your photograph? Would you listen to the piano or silence it to survive? Because here in the city of echoes, everything speaks, except the living. Morning doesn't arrive here, it reveals itself. The light seeps in slow and pale, like it's afraid to touch the ruins. You wake up with the sound of frost cracking off the walls. Your breath clouds in front of your face, soft and slow, and for one fleeting second, it almost looks like smoke from a hearth. Then the gunfire starts. One bullet hits a brick above your head. Another finds the corner of the window you shouldn't have been near. You hit the ground before thinking, face pressed to cold concrete, heart punching your ribs. The snipers own the daylight. Everyone knows it. They don't shoot to kill anymore. They shoot to remind you that they're always watching. You start moving only in shadows. Every crawl, every shuffle is a prayer. You count seconds between shots, learn their rhythm. 3 heartbeats. 4. Then silence. You use the silence to breathe, to move, to live another minute. Dieter lost his helmet this morning. It rolled into open sunlight. No one went to get it. Helmets shine. Reflection means death. You wrap your own head in cloth now, gray rags torn from curtains. You look like the enemy. You stopped caring about that days ago. The lieutenant whispers about reinforcement. You don't believe him. Reinforcements are stories told to keep your hands from shaking. You find a broken mirror in what used to be a stairwell. You look at it without recognizing yourself. The eyes staring back are wide, sunken, older. The dust has turned your face into a mask. You lift a hand, touch your cheek, and leave a clean mark, a single line of skin among all that gray. You realize you don't even remember the color of your own eyes. You were supposed to be here 2 weeks. It's been months. You hear about Soviet sharpshooters who never miss. Some call them ghosts, others witches. The stories blur. You start believing them anyway. Belief is easier than logic when you're too tired to think. Someone says there's a woman sniper among them, patient, invisible, deadly. You wonder what her face looks like. You wonder if she eats or if she's beyond that now. You wonder if she's watching you right now through a cracked scope, waiting for you to make one mistake. Do you move differently when you know you're being watched? Would you still breathe if every exhale could be your last? Your squad crawls to a new position, the ruins of a school. Chalk still lines the blackboard. There's a sentence half written in Cyrillic you can't read. The word at the end looks like home. You stay low. You listen. You wait. The sound of snipers has become like weather, predictable, constant, eternal. One man in your unit keeps score. Every shot he hears, he scratches a mark into the wall. Hundreds of lines. He doesn't talk much anymore. Just scratches. By noon, the snow has melted into slush. The air smells of oil, rust, and blood. You watch steam rise from the corpses outside, like the city is exhaling its own dead. You take aim at a window where a flash glints. You don't know if it's a rifle or just glass catching light. You squeeze the trigger anyway. The recoil jerks through your bones. You don't check if you hit anything, because here the line between shooting and surviving is thin, thinner than the breath leaving your mouth. Your rations are gone. You eat snow to trick your stomach. You tell yourself it helps. It doesn't. At dusk, the gunfire fades. The cold returns. The city goes quiet again, that uneasy, heavy quiet. You start a small fire from the pages of a Soviet notebook you found. The words mean nothing to you, but the warmth does. The paper curls, blackens, vanishes. You close your eyes just for a moment. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you see light again. Not from fire or shells, but from sunlight through glass. Windows. Real windows. The kind that didn't mean danger. The kind that opened to laughter, to life. But when you open your eyes, you're back in the ruins. The only thing moving is the smoke from your fire, rising toward the holes where the ceiling used to be. You whisper a name. You're not sure whose. It doesn't matter. Then, from somewhere in the distance, a single gunshot cracks the night. It echoes across the city like thunder pretending to be memory. You smile without meaning to, because now you know, The snipers don't sleep either. Boss, tell me, if you were here, would you still stand up when morning comes? Would you risk sunlight just to feel warmth again? Would you trade safety for one clear view of the sky? Because in Stalingrad, daylight doesn't belong to the living. It belongs to the patient, the unseen, the ones who wait. And tonight, you'll dream with one eye open, because the day always comes for you, even if you don't want it to. Night again. But night here isn't darkness, it's a kind of sound. A breathing, scratching, whispering sound. You lie still on the cracked floorboards, watching your breath rise in thin clouds. Every creak feels alive. Every shadow feels personal. The rats come first. Always the rats. Big ones. Fat from feeding on everything that war leaves behind. You stop chasing them away. They own the ruins more than you do. Sometimes you even talk to them, half in jest, half in need. You name one Emil, another Greta. Feels better that way. If everything is dying, at least something still listens. The others laugh quietly when you whisper to them. Then they stop laughing because they start doing it too. Rats don't flinch at gunfire. They don't care who wins. They just move, survive, and eat. You start to envy them for that. At first, you try to keep things clean, your uniform, your weapon, your face. Then one morning, you wake and realize your hands are gray, your nails black with dirt, your face streaked like ash. You don't remember the last time you washed anything. You don't remember when that stopped mattering. The city stinks, gunpowder, smoke, blood, and rot. But after a while, you stop noticing. The human mind is strange. It can get used to anything, even horror, especially horror. Some nights, Dieter hums softly. Not a song, not really, just a tune to drown out the chewing. You close your eyes and let it blur into the rhythm of the rats scurrying through the walls. It becomes its own kind of music, erratic, grotesque, alive. The soundtrack of the siege. You wonder, if music survives in hell, does that mean beauty does too? Would you hum to stay sane, or to prove you still exist? The lieutenant says they'll send supplies soon. You nod, but you don't believe him. Hope is something you ration now like cigarettes, a single drag at a time. In one of the rooms, you find an old photograph of a concert hall. People in tuxedos, applause frozen mid-motion. You stare at it for minutes before tearing off the corner and sliding it into your pocket. A memory you didn't live, but one you can borrow. You begin to notice how the war rewires your senses. A drip of water sounds like a clock. The whistle of shells becomes a lullaby. The chewing of rats becomes reassurance. Because if they're still moving, it means you're still alive. You think about home, not the place but the feeling. The sound of bread crust breaking. The smell of coffee. The way your mother used to hum when she cooked. But you stop yourself. Memory is dangerous here. It softens you. The floor vibrates with distant explosions. The dust above your head falls like snow. You close your eyes and imagine it's real snow. White, cold, clean. Then Dieter shakes you awake. He points toward the doorway. A rat, no, two, are dragging something across the floor. A finger. You look at it without emotion. You don't even ask whose. You just pull your blanket tighter and turn away. The human part of you wants to feel disgust. The soldier part doesn't have time. You write a few words in your notebook before sleep. We've become the city's heartbeat. It keeps us alive only so it doesn't die alone. Do you think a place can feed on the people trapped inside it? Would you stay in a city that no longer remembers your name? You fall asleep to the sound of scratching, soft, persistent, endless. It feels almost comforting. When you wake, one of the men is gone. No one asks where. The lieutenant calls for a roll check, but his voice breaks halfway through the names. No one corrects him when he skips a few. You look at the ceiling. It's cracked, riddled with bullet holes that form patterns. You trace them with your eyes, constellations of survival. A new kind of sky. Outside, dawn creeps in pale and thin. The snipers will wake soon. The city will start breathing again, slow, wheezing, dangerous. You brush a rat off your coat and it barely moves. You smile. It's not courage, just routine. You pick up your rifle. The metal feels colder every day. For a moment, you listen, really listen, to the sounds of the room. The slow drip of melted snow. The rasp of your own breath. The rustle of creatures too stubborn to die. It hits you, this is what life sounds like here. Not heroism. Not glory. Just movement. Just continuation. You whisper a question into the air, though no one answers. Is this what surviving means? Learning to live among the rats? And in the dark, something scratches back. Boss, if you were here, would you fear the silence more than the noise? Would you envy the rats for their simplicity, or pity them for their ignorance? How long before the music of survival starts to sound like home? Because in Stalingrad, the only orchestra left plays underground, and every note is written in dust. The night doesn't end, it just thins. A gray light filters through shattered windows, turning the dust into fog. You move through the corridors of the ruined building with your rifle raised, boots silent, breath held. Every sound is wrong now, too sharp, too near, too alive. You used to fear the forest. Now you fear hallways. The corridors stretch on forever, lined with torn wallpaper and bullet scars. A child's shoe lies in a doorway. A rusted spoon. A cracked teacup. Each object feels heavier than a body, because every one of them means someone once lived here, and maybe still does, behind a wall, waiting. The air smells of mold and metal. You pass a mirror, its surface spiderwebbed with cracks. For a second, you think you see movement, a flash of someone behind you. You spin, rifle up. Nothing. Just your own shadow on the wall. But your heart doesn't slow down. You whisper to the man beside you, "Did you see that?" He doesn't answer. You turn and realize he's gone. You were alone the whole time. You tell yourself it's exhaustion, that you're seeing things. But the silence has a pulse now. You can feel it breathing. A floorboard creaks somewhere above. You freeze. Another sound, slow, deliberate steps. You signal to the others, but no one moves. No one breathes. Then, a flicker of movement at the end of the corridor. A shadow slips through the doorway. Human. Silent. Gone. You stalk forward, each footstep a gamble. You can smell the cold sweat under your helmet. The shadow reappears, smaller now, closer. You raise your rifle, and then you see it. A child. Or what's left of one, wrapped in rags, eyes wide, hair matted with soot. She doesn't speak. She just stares, clutching something small in her hands. A doll missing its head. Before you can react, she's gone again, vanishing between two walls like smoke. You don't follow. You don't call out. Because here, even innocence feels like an ambush. Later, when you tell the others, no one believes you. But no one calls you crazy either. They've seen their own things. Faces in the fog, voices calling their names at night. The city isn't empty. It's haunted. Do you think ghosts stay because they want to, or because they can't leave? If you were trapped here, would you haunt it too? Dieter swears he saw his brother yesterday. Same uniform, same gait. He chased him across 2 streets before realizing the man had no face. He hasn't spoken since. You start to notice patterns in the destruction. Rooms collapse in shapes that look deliberate. Bullet holes line up like symbols. Windows form faces if you stare long enough. You stop staring. At dusk, the corridors grow colder. The walls weep moisture that smells like rust. You sleep in shifts now, 2 hours on, 2 off. Sleep becomes dangerous. Dreams bleed into waking. One night, you wake to footsteps again. Slow, barefoot, inside the room. You reach for your rifle but stop. The sound isn't threatening. Curious, like something exploring, something remembering. You whisper, "Who's there?" Silence answers. Then a whisper back in Russian. You don't understand the words, but the tone is gentle, almost kind. When you wake, the fire's gone out. Your hands are shaking. You tell yourself it was a dream, but your rifle's safety is off, and you don't remember touching it. Every corridor feels narrower now. The light never reaches the end. You walk slower, quieter, because you've learned something important. It's not just the living that move here. You find yourself counting breaths, counting steps. If you count them right, nothing happens. If you lose count, the noises start again. It becomes a ritual, the rhythm of survival. Do you think the human mind invents ghosts to explain fear? Or do ghosts appear because fear makes space for them? One evening, you find graffiti on the wall, words scrawled in German. "We are still here." You stare at it for a long time. The handwriting isn't yours, but it could have been. You begin to realize that survival has a pattern, repetition, memory, ritual. You sleep. You wake. You count. You move. You count again. Anything to fill the silence between echoes. You whisper to yourself now when you walk just to hear a voice. Sometimes you answer your own questions. You call it conversation. By now you've stopped wondering when you'll leave. You've started wondering if the city will ever let you. When you finally reach the staircase leading outside, you pause. A draft blows through the corridor, cold, gentle, almost human. You could swear you hear someone sigh your name. You don't turn around. You step into the light and close the door behind you. The building groans, as if exhaling. You whisper, "Goodbye," just in case someone's listening. Boss, if you were here, would you talk to the ghosts or ignore them? Would you run from the corridors, or stay just to prove you weren't afraid? When the dead whisper your name, do you answer? Because in Stalingrad, the ghosts don't wear sheets. They wear memories, and sometimes they look a lot like you. You stop counting days. You start counting faces. Each morning there are fewer. The air grows thinner, heavier, filled not with smoke but with absence. You can almost feel where people used to be. Their laughter, their arguments, their footsteps, ghosts of sound now buried under snow and mortar dust. The lieutenant keeps track in a notebook. You don't ask what he writes anymore. You already know. Names at first, then initials, then just numbers. But one man, a quiet one from Hamburg, does something different. He carries a deck of cards in his breast pocket. Not for games. There's no time for games anymore. The first time someone dies, he pulls out the deck and lays a card on the ground. The Jack of Hearts. He places a rock on top to keep it from blowing away. For luck, he says. No one argues. By the end of the week, there are 7 cards. By the end of the month, 20. You stop asking who each one is for. It's easier that way. He doesn't deal them in order. He says the war decides which face comes next. The Ace of Spades becomes your commander. The Queen of Clubs, a medic who died carrying water. The 10 of Diamonds, Dieter. Each card becomes a gravestone. A tiny memorial to lives the world will never count. Sometimes when you can't sleep, you shuffle the deck in your hands. The edges are soft, stained with mud, blood, maybe tears. You can't tell which is which anymore. He keeps the deck close, like it holds the last proof that you were ever a unit. You start to think of it as a Bible, one that doesn't promise heaven, only remembrance. Do you think memory is stronger than death? If you were here, would you want to be remembered or forgotten? The city moans under another round of shelling. Windows scream. Walls tremble. Dust rains from the ceiling like ash from a burned sky. When it stops, you step outside. Snowflakes drift down, soft, soundless. They fall on the cards that mark the dead. White paper over red hearts. Nature's last gesture of mercy. You bend down, brush one off, and whisper a name. It's the first time you've said a name out loud in days. It feels foreign, like a word from another language. The man with the card says he dreams about them. Each face visits him at night, asking for a cigarette or a story. You tell him that's crazy, but secretly you hope they visit you too. One morning he doesn't wake up. You check his pulse. Nothing. You find the deck in his coat, pressed to his heart. The top card is the King of Spades. You take it. You don't know why. Maybe because you're the only one left who knows what it means. You gather the cards. Place them in a tin. You don't bury them. The ground's too hard. You just set the tin on a ledge and walk away. By evening, snow has covered it completely, as if the city itself wanted to hide the evidence of what it's done. Do you believe the dead watch us? Or do they turn away, ashamed of how we live after them? You start a new ritual. Every time someone dies, you trace a small square in the dirt with your boot, a ghost of a card. It's childish, but it feels right. The other men copy you. Soon, the floor of your shelter looks like a card table made of footprints. The lieutenant sees it once, frowns, then looks away. He doesn't stop you. Even orders have limits here. At night, when the wind howls through the gaps in the walls, you think you can hear the cards fluttering somewhere, a faint paper rustle in the dark. It sounds like luck or fate or maybe just the shuffle of memory trying to reorganize itself. One night, you dream of them. All the faces. The soldiers, the medics, the civilians, the child with the doll. They're sitting around a table made of snow, dealing cards to one another. You stand at the edge watching. No one looks up. No one invites you to sit. You wake with a start, heart hammering, sweat freezing on your neck. You check your coat pocket. The King of Spades is still there. You smile, half mad, half awake. You whisper to the darkness, "Not yet." And the city answers, not with words, but with a low, distant rumble. Sound like shuffling. Boss, if you were here, would you keep your own tally of the dead, or stop counting before you broke? Would you carry their memory as honor or as weight? And if you had one card left, one symbol to leave behind, which would you choose? Because in Stalingrad, even luck bleeds. And sometimes the last game you play isn't for victory, it's for the right to be remembered. The morning smells of smoke and hunger. Not the sharp smoke of battle, a softer one, almost domestic. You follow it through the ruins, past the husks of staircases and the bones of walls. And there, half buried under rubble, you find it, what used to be a bakery. The ovens are split open like wounds. Ash drifts across the floor in soft gray waves. Someone's handprint still marks the wall, black against white dust, as if frozen mid-escape. You step inside. It's quiet except for the crackle of cooling stone. Then you see it, a loaf half-burned, still sitting on a tray. The crust is black, the inside pale and ghostly. You break off a piece. It crumbles like sand between your fingers. Someone whispers behind you, "Fresh bread?" For a second you almost laugh. Almost. The words sound like a joke, the kind soldiers tell to remind themselves they're still human. But no one laughs anymore. You share it anyway, a crumb each. The taste is nothing. But for a moment you pretend it's real bread from home, from before. Do you think hope has a flavor? Would you eat ashes if they reminded you of warmth? The lieutenant arrives later, his face drawn and hollow. He looks at the wreckage, then at the loaf, then at you. "Take what you can," he says quietly. You realize he's not talking about food. Outside the snow falls black. Soot from the fires above mixes with flakes from the sky, heaven and hell falling together. You watch it cover the street like a funeral cloth. A man nearby kneels, trying to scrape burnt dough off a pan. His hands shake. He's not hungry, he's desperate for the act itself, the ritual of survival. The difference between eating and living blurs here. You look up and see smoke curling from what's left of the chimney. For a heartbeat, it looks like a signal. Maybe someone's still baking somewhere else. Maybe someone alive. You feel the first real pang of hunger in days, not just in your stomach but in your chest. Hunger for something that isn't rationed, issued, or stolen. Hunger for the world to be ordinary again. Do you ever crave the past like food? Would you chew memory if it could fill you? As you leave, you step on something hard. You look down, a child's tin mold in the shape of a star. You pick it up, dust it off. It's bent, but still recognizable. You slip it into your pocket without knowing why. That night, someone builds a small fire with chair legs and prayer. They heat snow in a helmet, add crumbs of flour, fragments of bread, anything that could fool the body into thinking it's eating. When it's ready, you pass the helmet around. Each man takes a sip. It tastes like smoke and metal, and strangely, forgiveness. Someone murmurs, "To the baker." No one corrects him. You stare into the fire and watch the flames lick the air in silence. Every color in the world is there, gold, red, black, blue, but all you see is warmth. You can't remember the last time your hands didn't shake. The wind outside shifts. The smell of the bakery fades, replaced by the raw scent of snow and iron. The night returns, vast and empty. You close your eyes and for a moment, you see your mother's kitchen. The light through the curtains, the dust in the air, the crackle of bread crusts cooling on the table. So vivid you can almost reach it. But then a shell falls somewhere far off and the memory shatters. You open your eyes to the ruin again, and to the men around you, faces lit by firelight, eyes hollow but awake. The kind of awake that doesn't end when the night does. No one speaks for a long time. Because here words are like food, scarce, precious, and not always worth spending. When you finally lie down, the ground is cold but solid. You place the tin star under your head like a charm. You whisper to yourself, "Tomorrow may be bread. Tomorrow may be light." But you don't believe it. You just say it because it helps to have something to say. Boss, if you were here, would you still break your bread with strangers? Would you share ashes if they called it hope? Could you still pray for warmth when warmth belongs to fire? Because in Stalingrad, the ovens never stopped burning. They just forgot what bread was for. You smell it before you see it. A scent so strange, so familiar, that for a heartbeat your body forgets where it is. Your stomach tightens, your pulse quickens. You almost run toward it, almost. The street is silent. Snow muffles everything. Then, through the smoke and debris, you find it. A small Soviet outpost, abandoned in haste. Inside, pots still hang over the embers of a fire. One of them holds soup. You don't think. You move. You dip your tin cup in, your hands trembling. The broth is thin, floating with bits of cabbage meat, maybe. The smell makes your eyes sting. For a long moment, you simply hold the cup close, breathing it in. Steam fogs your vision. The warmth hits your face like memory. Someone behind you whispers, "Don't." Another voice answers, "Why not?" No one has the strength to argue. You take a sip. The taste is unbelievable, not because it's good, but because it's real. It's food that someone made. Food that was meant for someone else. For a moment, you feel like a thief. Then you take another sip anyway. Do you think guilt disappears when hunger grows loud enough? Would you eat from your enemy's bowl if it meant living another day? Dieter reaches for a ladle. He's shaking so hard he spills half of it. You help him steady his hand. The two of you eat in silence, staring at the fire. The flames flicker low and orange, the color of life in a gray world. You find a spoon left behind. Its handle is carved with a name, Victor. You say it out loud softly. The word feels strange, like a prayer in another religion. For a moment, you imagine the man who left it, rushing out under orders, expecting to return, never realizing strangers would sit at his fire. You wonder if he's still alive, if he's eating someone else's soup somewhere down the line. You can almost see it. Soldiers on both sides chasing warmth in a circle that never ends, each feeding off the other's leftovers. Is that what survival means? Taking turns being ghosts? The lieutenant enters, rifle raised. When he sees the soup, he lowers it. He doesn't scold you. He just stands there watching the steam rise. Then he does something you don't expect. He sits down, takes a cup, and drinks. No rank here anymore. No sides, no uniforms, no lines. Just men, cold, hungry, human. For a few minutes, you almost forget the war. The fire crackles. The air hums with quiet. It feels like peace trying to remember itself. You notice something else, the spoon. When the lieutenant stirs the pot, the carved name flashes again, Victor. He pauses. Then he places it carefully beside the pot, as if returning something sacred. No one speaks, but every man there understands. You finish your cup and sit back, dizzy with warmth. The heat spreads through your chest like forgiveness. You close your eyes. For once, the silence isn't empty, it's kind. Outside, snow falls heavier. You can hear the distant rumble of engines, the cough of artillery far away. The world hasn't changed, but for this small hour it feels like it could. When you leave, you don't extinguish the fire. You leave it burning because somewhere, someone else might need it. You walk into the cold again, the smell of soup still clinging to your coat. Your breath mixes with the falling snow, your footsteps disappearing behind you. You think of the man named Victor, and wonder if he'd forgive you. Do you think forgiveness can survive hunger? Would you share what little you had with the person who tried to kill you? And if you found warmth in your enemy's fire, would you still call him enemy? You walk on, hands still clutching the cup. When the wind blows, you can smell the faint ghost of broth. The last trace of something human in a place that has forgotten how to be. That night, as you lie beneath the ruined beams, you dream of a kitchen. You don't know whose. A pot on the stove. Soup bubbling softly. The sound of a door opening. A voice calling your name, not in German, not in Russian, just home. You wake with tears frozen on your face. The fire's gone. The cold is back. You look at your hands, still cupped as if holding something warm. But there's nothing there. Only the memory of soup. Only the echo of mercy. Boss, if you were here, would you risk shame for a mouthful of warmth? Would you eat the kindness of an enemy, knowing he might have done the same for you? And when the fire burned low, would you stay, or leave it behind for someone else? Because in Stalingrad, mercy isn't given. It's borrowed, passed like a spoon, from one shaking hand to another. You hear it before you see it. A strange, hollow sound, not battle, not shellfire. Something else. Something old. It's faint at first, carried through the wind. A low, resonant hum that rises and falls like breath. You follow it through the ruins, through snowdrifts shaped like tombstones until you find it. The remains of a church. The roof is gone. The bell tower leans like a drunk. But inside, somehow the air feels different. Dull. Heavy. Sacred, maybe. You step through the doorway, careful not to disturb the icicles hanging like chandeliers from the rafters. Light filters in through shattered stained glass. Reds, blues, greens, painted across the snow like frozen fire. You take a breath. It smells of dust, candle wax, and centuries. For a moment, it feels like stepping into another world. A quieter one. The sound again, that hum. It's not bells. It's wind. Whistling through the holes where windows used to be, creating an accidental hymn. Someone whispers behind you, it's still singing. You don't know who said it. You just nod. Do you believe buildings can remember? That stone and glass can hold prayers long after the people who made them are gone? You walk down what used to be the aisle. The altar is half buried in snow. A crucifix lies broken nearby, the wood cracked, the figure half missing. Someone has placed a helmet at its base, filled with flowers made of paper. You don't know who did it. You don't ask. Dieter kneels beside the altar. He crosses himself, not out of faith but habit. Then he mutters, "If God's here, he's freezing too." You want to laugh, but it catches in your throat. You find a candle stub on the floor, miraculously dry. You light it. The flame flickers weakly against the wind, casting shadows that stretch across the ice. For a second, the colors on the wall seem to move, the blue of a saint's robe, the red of a martyr's wound. They shimmer like they're alive. You close your eyes. You can almost hear footsteps, soft ones echoing down the aisle. Maybe your imagination, maybe not. Do you ever feel like ruins are watching you back? Like they're waiting to see what kind of human you still are? The lieutenant enters. He removes his cap, not out of reverence but weariness. His breath clouds the air like incense. For a moment he looks less like a soldier and more like a mourner. He picks up a shard of glass from the floor, a fragment of a saint's face. The eyes are gone, but the mouth still smiles. He stares at it a long time before tucking it into his pocket. Outside, artillery rumbles like distant thunder. The sound seems small compared to the silence here. You realize this is the first time in weeks you've heard quiet without fear. You sit down on a pew, what's left of one. Your rifle rests beside you. You take off your gloves and press your hands together. You don't pray. You just feel. The wood under your palms is cold but solid. Real. Somewhere high above, a single note rings out. The wind catching the last bell. It's cracked, but it rings anyway. A broken sound from a broken world. The others start to leave one by one. You stay. When the last man's footsteps fade, you whisper something, not to God, not to anyone, just to the air. Let me remember this quiet. Because out there, there's no quiet left. Only noise pretending to be purpose. You blow out the candle. The smoke rises like a sigh. As you step into the cold again, snow begins to fall in thick, heavy flakes. They drift through the hole where the roof used to be, settling on the altar, the pews, your shoulders. For a moment, it looks like the church is being buried by heaven itself. Do you think faith can survive frostbite? Can hope freeze and still come back to life when spring returns? Or does it stay trapped forever, like those saints caught mid-prayer behind glass that no longer exists? You glance back one last time. The church stands in silence, glowing faintly under the moonlight. The wind still sings through the broken tower, a melody made by accident or by memory. You can't tell which. You whisper to yourself, maybe he's still listening. Then you walk on, leaving behind the frozen cathedral. It's him echoing behind you, a sound too fragile for war, and too human to die. At first you think it's snow moving, just the wind maybe, or your tired eyes playing tricks again. But then the shapes start to separate from the drifts. Figures, silent, slow, pale, moving through the blizzard like they belong to it. You blink hard, rub your eyes, but they're still there. Long white smocks, hoods pulled tight, rifles blending into the snow. The Soviets. Someone whispers, ghosts. You don't correct him. It fits. Because they don't walk, they glide. Because they don't shout, they appear. One of your men fires. A spark, a crack, a scream swallowed by the wind. When the smoke clears, the snow looks untouched. No bodies. No blood. Only white. Endless white. You've fought men before. But this feels different. You're fighting weather that learned how to shoot. Do you think the mind invents ghosts when the world becomes too quiet? Or do ghosts invent the mind just to remember being alive? You build snow walls now. Not real defenses, just lumps of frozen powder meant to feel like protection. You curl behind them at night, rifle across your chest, breath freezing in your beard. Sleep comes in bursts. Every sound pulls you awake. Sometimes it's the wind, sometimes not. You hear footsteps that stop when you listen. You see shapes at the edge of your sight, gone when you turn. The others pretend not to notice. You do too. One night, Dieter shakes you awake. Look, he whispers. You crawl up, peek over the ridge, and there they are. Dozens, maybe hundreds, ghosts in white, crawling through the snow, silent as smoke. The moon catches their helmets, their breath, their eyes. And for a second you can't tell if they're attacking or mourning. The lieutenant gives no orders. He just grips his rifle and mutters something you can't hear. The silence stretches. Then the flare goes up. Green light floods the field. Everything turns surreal. Snow glowing neon, men like statues, shadows that ripple like water. You fire. They fire back. Light. Noise. Death. Then darkness again. When it's over, the world feels smaller. You check your ammo, half gone. You check your soul, half gone too. You bury what's left of the dead under drifts. The snow folds over them like a closing book. By morning, there's no sign anyone was ever here. Do you believe the earth tries to forget us? That snow is nature's way of erasing war? You keep moving. Your boots crunch through layers of ice. Sometimes you hear voices, laughter, whispering, singing, but they're too faint, too far away. Maybe echoes from the other side. One day you see something frozen in a tree. At first you think it's a sack. Then you realize it's a man. A Soviet sniper, lashed to the branches with wire, rifle still clutched tight. His face is serene, eyes open, mouth slightly parted. You stare too long. You start to imagine he's breathing. The lieutenant calls your name. You don't answer. Later that night you dream of him. Still in that tree. Still aiming at you. Still waiting for the wind to calm. You wake sweating, teeth chattering. The fire's out. The other's asleep. You sit there watching the frost creep across your boots like roots. You whisper, "Do you forgive us?" No answer. Do you think ghosts are just memories too heavy to melt? If you were one, would you haunt the battlefield that forgot your name? The next day the snow deepens. You can barely lift your legs. Every step feels like sinking into the past. You stop caring what's real. You stop asking where the front is. You just move toward the next patch of gray on the horizon. The sky turns the color of gunmetal. You see the frozen river ahead. And for a moment, it shines. A sheet of ice so smooth it looks like glass. In the reflection, you see movement, white figures again walking toward you. You raise your rifle. But when you look up, the river is empty. You lower your weapon. The reflection remains. You can't tell anymore which side of the ice you're on. The wind howls like an organ. You walk on. Your shadow disappears. You don't notice. Pause. If you were here and saw something move through the snow that wasn't quite human, would you shoot it? Or would you follow it, hoping it still remembered the way home? Because on this front, ghosts wear uniforms. And the living? We're the ones still trying to prove we exist. The world has gone quiet. Not peaceful quiet, the other kind. The kind that hums in your ears like a warning. You stop hearing battles as battles. No more grand offensives, no decisive strikes. Just a constant, distant murmur, the wind, the ice, your own blood pulsing behind your eyes. The sound becomes everything. They call it the white noise. A phrase passed around by soldiers like a superstition. It's the sound you hear right before the mind breaks, when the war isn't loud anymore but infinite. The snow whispers when you walk. Your breath hisses when you exhale. Even silence has texture now, a thin vibration that crawls under your skin. One night, you stop beside a burned-out tank. Its metal shell groans softly in the wind, like a dying animal that refuses to finish dying. You touch the cold steel and swear you can feel a heartbeat. Do you think war leaves echoes? Or are you just listening to the ghosts inside yourself? The lieutenant says the Soviets have shifted positions again. You nod. You don't care. He might be right. He might be wrong. The front isn't a line anymore. It's a sound. A constant background hum that reminds you there's no such thing as far away. You march through the forest. Bare branches scrape the sky like antennae. Every twig crack feels like thunder. Every gust of wind feels like breath on your neck. You've learned to tell distance by sound now. A boot crunch 5 meters. A cough 20. A gunshot. You don't measure those anymore. Someone hums as he walks. You want to tell him to stop, but the melody is familiar. It's the same lullaby Dieter played on the piano weeks ago. It loops over and over until you realize he's not humming anymore. And you're the one doing it. You can't remember when you started. You can't stop. At dusk, you reach an abandoned barn. You take shelter inside. The roof creaks with the weight of snow. Every sound becomes a conversation. Drips, groans, the shuffle of boots. Then something new. A faint click. Too deliberate. Too precise. You freeze. Everyone goes still. 5 seconds. 10. Then a cough. Then nothing. You wait an hour before breathing normally again. Do you ever wonder what silence sounds like to someone who's never heard peace? Would it still be beautiful, or would it terrify you the way it does us now? A week passes maybe. Days blur into one another, measured only by noise. A shell in the distance means morning. A scream nearby means night. A moment of total quiet means run. You stop checking your watch. You stop marking time. The only clock that matters now is the rhythm of your boots and the crackle of your lungs. Once you hear a man screaming, not from pain but panic. It echoes across the snow, bounces off the ruins, becomes something inhuman. Then it stops. You never find the source, but you remember the sound. It fills the silence that follows like smoke fills a room. The lieutenant says, "Stay vigilant." But vigilance takes energy. You have none left. You move by instinct now, an animal responding to vibrations in the air. At night, you sit by the fire and listen to the wood pop. Each spark sounds like a bullet finding its mark. You count them without meaning to. You lose count anyway. Dieter starts talking in his sleep. Full conversations, clear words, but never in German. You don't wake him. You're afraid he's speaking to someone you can't see. Do you think madness announces itself? Or does it whisper so quietly that by the time you hear it, it's already yours? The next morning, you wake to find fresh snow covering the tracks you left yesterday. It's like you were never here. You walk again, retracing your own vanishing footsteps. The sound of boots in snow, crunch, pause, crunch. That's the song of this front. It's what you'll remember if you survive. Not glory, not courage, just that rhythm. Over and over, the day stretches thin. Your breath, your thoughts, your heartbeat, all blending into that one constant frequency. The white noise. It's not outside anymore. It's inside you. By evening, you realize something strange. You haven't heard gunfire in 2 days. You haven't seen the enemy, but the fear hasn't left. It's deeper now, not fear of something, but fear without something. As if you need the noise to know you're real. You press your hands to your ears. For a moment, it's quiet. Then, a whisper. Your own voice saying something you don't remember saying. You lower your hands. You laugh softly, because you understand now. There is no silence in Stalingrad. Only the sound of men trying to remember what silence used to mean. Boss, if you were here, would you crave quiet? Or would it haunt you, the stillness, the emptiness, the sound of nothing left to lose? Because after enough noise, silence doesn't heal. It echoes, and sometimes it answers back. It happens without warning. No build-up, no signal, just light. Green flares slicing open the sky like wounds. Then sound. 1,000 noises rushing back at once. Gunfire, shouting, the scream of metal ricochets. After days of silence, it feels deafening. You drop flat into the snow before you even think. The forest explodes around you. Branches snap. Bullets hiss through the air like angry insects. The snow kicks up in clouds, each flake a flash of reflected chaos. You return fire. You don't aim, you react. The body remembers what the mind can't. Your rifle bucks, your shoulder stings, and for a heartbeat you feel alive. Not safe, not brave, just alive. Do you think survival is bravery, or just the body refusing to listen to fear? A man beside you collapses. No sound, just drops, face first, vanishing into white. You want to pull him back, but something deep in you says, move. You crawl instead, hands freezing, breath short, mind stripped down to a single command. Keep breathing. The flares fade. Darkness returns, thicker than before. Now only the muzzle flashes guide you, red bursts that light the world one nightmare at a time. You count the bursts. 1, 2, 3. Then the rhythm breaks, an explosion. A mortar shell lands somewhere close, the blast throwing snow and bodies alike. You hit the ground hard. The world blurs. When the sound fades, all that's left is ringing. High, thin, endless. You open your mouth. No voice comes out. You look around. The others are scattered. Some still firing, some crawling, some gone. You spot Dieter across the clearing, reloading with shaking hands. You start to shout his name, but your throat produces only air. He looks up, sees you, and grins weakly, a grim, crooked grin that says, "We're still here." Then another shot. He jerks backward. You don't see the impact, just the fall. You freeze. For a second, you think the world stopped. But it hasn't, it's just narrowed. Everything else fades. The sound, the snow, the men, until all that exists is that single motion. Dieter falling. You crawl toward him. Your gloves are slick, your knees numb. You find him half buried, eyes open, still smiling. You whisper, "You're okay?" He doesn't blink. The lieutenant shouts somewhere behind you, his voice barely cutting through the din. "Pull back." You hesitate. Then you feel it, the vibration through the ground, deep, heavy, approaching. Tanks. You grab your rifle, one last look at Dieter, and run. Not fast, not far. Just enough to live another few seconds. Snow explodes behind you in geysers of shrapnel. Each blast throws you forward, closer to whatever safety means now. You trip, fall, crawl, get up again. It's not running, it's escaping gravity. When you finally dive behind a ridge, you can't tell where the front is anymore. You can't tell if you've moved forward or backward. You can't tell if you've won or lost. Do you think victory still exists when you can't tell which direction you're facing? Would you call survival a triumph, or just a delay? You reload with shaking hands. The metal burns cold. You don't look at the rifle, you just listen for the next shot. It doesn't come. Minutes pass, maybe hours. The gunfire dies. The wind takes over again. The white noise returns. You step out slowly. The ground is cratered, pocked with shell holes, littered with rifles half buried in frost. No movement, no voices, just the snow reclaiming everything it lost. You find a glove. Not yours, not Dieter's. Someone's hand still inside. You stare at it for a long time before setting it down gently, like a relic. The lieutenant limps past you. His eyes are dull. His face is gray. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He just looks west, the direction that means retreat, home, maybe both. You follow him. Not because of orders, because there's nothing else to do. The snow falls heavier now, muffling the world again. The sound of battle dissolves into memory. You try to remember how it started. You can't. Feels like the war has always been here. Like it was waiting for you. Boss, if you were here, and the world around you erupted after weeks of silence, would you still recognize yourself beneath the noise? Would you still remember what you were fighting for? Or would it all become survival, plain and raw? Because sometimes war doesn't announce itself with drums or orders. Sometimes it just arrives, like a storm that remembers your name. When dawn comes, it doesn't look like morning. The sky is the color of bruised metal. The air tastes like iron and frost. And the city, if it can still be called that, is burning. Smoke curls through the ruins in heavy gray ribbons. It hangs low, clinging to the ground, swallowing the dead, the living, and everything in between. When you breathe, it fills your lungs like dust. When you blink, it stings like regret. You and what's left of your unit move quietly, weapons slung, boots dragging. No one talks. No one needs to. Every sound feels borrowed, every footstep an intrusion. Somewhere to your right, a building collapses in slow motion, like an exhausted animal finally giving up. You don't even flinch. You've seen cities die before, but not like this. Not with the sun trying to rise through the smoke. Not with the air shimmering like something holy and cursed all at once. You reach what used to be a riverbank. The Volga, now a ribbon of black water and ice. Chunks of debris float by, wood helmets, something that might be a man. The bridge is gone. Only pillars remain, jutting from the current like the teeth of a drowned god. The lieutenant stares across the river. His voice cracks when he says, "West." That's all. Just one word. A direction, not a promise. Do you think directions matter when the world itself has no edges left? Would you still walk if you didn't know whether the horizon was home or just another graveyard? The smoke thickens. It rolls off the ruins and settles on the water, turning the river into a living fog that moves against the wind. You step closer and feel the cold rising off it. It's beautiful, terrifying, like the earth exhaling its dead. A man beside you mutters, "Looks like it's breathing." You nod, because it does. The air grows quieter, heavier. Your boots leave shallow prints in the ash. You follow the lieutenant's hand signals, weaving between broken beams and shattered walls. Somewhere ahead, a shell explodes. Not near, far enough to sound like thunder. The shockwave ripples through the smoke, and for a split second, it parts, revealing a bridge of ice stretching across the water. It's thin, unstable, impossible, but it's there. The lieutenant looks at you. You look at him. No words, just nods. You step onto the ice first. It creaks like old bones. Every movement sends hairline fractures spiderwebbing beneath your boots. The sound echoes like whispers trapped under glass. Halfway across you stop. The fog swirls around you, swallowing the world. You can't see the shore behind. You can't see the one ahead. For a heartbeat, it feels like you're walking on nothing. Like gravity forgot you exist. Do you think survival has a direction or just momentum? Would you keep walking if you couldn't tell whether forward still existed? You glance down. Through the cracks, you see something moving beneath the ice. Dark shapes, slow and steady. At first, you think it's debris. Then one shape tilts upward and you see a face. Frozen. Eyes open. You freeze too. The man beneath the ice stares up at you, mouth half open, his body drifting in slow circles, caught between current and eternity. You whisper a prayer, you don't even know for whom. Then the ice groans again. You start walking. Faster now. Every step sounds like breaking glass. When you reach the other side, your knees give out. You fall into the snow, gasping. You look back. The bridge of ice is gone. Melted? Broken? Dreamed? You'll never know. The lieutenant stands beside you, coughing into his sleeve. His voice comes out hoarse. Keep moving. You nod, still trembling. You rise, and behind you, the river exhales one last plume of smoke. Long, black, and final. The city is gone. You don't look back, because in war, looking back means counting ghosts. And you've already lost track. Boss, if you were here, would you cross the river knowing the ice could break with every step? Would you walk through smoke thick enough to hide heaven itself? And if you made it across, would you dare to look back? Or would you let the river keep your reflection forever? Because the truth about Stalingrad is simple. You don't survive it. You just learn to walk through smoke and call it air. You don't remember who said it first. Maybe the lieutenant, maybe no one. But the word spreads like frost. Retreat. Not shouted. Not ordered. Just murmured. Whispered. Passed from mouth to mouth until it loses shape. Until it sounds like something older than language. The sound animals make when they decide to survive. You start moving west. No drums, no banners, no music. Just boots scraping across ice and snow. A rhythm made of exhaustion. The horizon looks endless. White on white. No landmarks, no promises. Just a line between cold sky and colder ground. You follow it because there's nothing else to follow. Do you think it's still retreat if there's nowhere left to go? Or is it just gravity pulling the living away from the dead? The road is gone, swallowed by snowdrifts. You march through open fields where nothing moves except crows. They circle high, black commas in an empty sentence. You used to march in ranks, shoulder to shoulder, rifles gleaming in sunlight. Now you march in silence, scattered and uneven. A procession of ghosts pretending to be men. Someone coughs blood. Someone else drops to his knees, too tired to curse. You keep walking. Not out of will, out of momentum. Once a body starts retreating, it forgets how to stop. The lieutenant walks at the front, his scarf wrapped so tight you can't see his mouth. He doesn't speak anymore. His gestures have become smaller. A point, a nod, a hand raised against the wind. Even leadership sounds quieter now. You pass through a village, or what's left of one. Half the roofs are gone. The wells are frozen solid. There's no movement except a curtain flapping in a broken window. Inside one house, you find a table set for dinner, plates, cups, a candle melted halfway. Everything covered in a thin layer of ash. You don't touch anything. You just stare, then leave. Do you think the world forgets faster than we do? That walls remember warmth longer than people do? You rest for an hour, maybe two. Someone finds a chair leg and lights it as a torch. The flame dances wildly in the wind, too bright for this place, too alive. Everyone stares at it like it's a god. Then the wind kills it. The march begins again. Your rifle hangs heavy at your side. The strap digs into your shoulder. The metal freezes to your gloves. But you keep it close, because not carrying it would feel like giving up the last piece of who you were. A man ahead stumbles and falls face first into the snow. No one moves for a second. Then two others drag him to his feet. He mutters something you can't hear and keeps walking. That's how mercy works now, quiet, practical, brief. Night falls too fast. The sky turns a deep violet, the color of bruised lungs. You make camp in a ditch beside a frozen cart. Someone finds a piece of canvas, stretches it across the top. It becomes your roof. You share half a tin of sardines between 6 men. The salt burns your cracked lips, but you don't care. It tastes like life. The lieutenant unwraps his scarf and says, "We're going to make it." No one answers. Not because you don't believe him, because belief feels expensive, and you can't afford it anymore. You lie back, staring up through the gap in the canvas at a handful of stars barely visible through the haze. They look distant, unconcerned, eternal. You used to find comfort in that. Now it just makes you feel forgotten. Do you think the stars watch wars the way we watch storms? Fascinated but untouched? Do you think they remember us when we're gone? You close your eyes, and for the first time, you dream of walking somewhere warm. No gunfire, no frost, just rain, soft, steady, cleansing. You almost smile. Then you wake. The rain is real, but it's not warm. It's sleet. Sharp, cold, merciless. You stand, shoulders aching, and start walking again. The retreat continues. No one asks how far. No one asks when it ends. Because deep down, you all know the truth. It never does. Boss, if you were here, would you keep walking if you didn't know where home was anymore? Would you march for survival? Or because standing still meant realizing what you've become? Because this isn't victory. This isn't defeat. This is the space between, where men learn that living and running are sometimes the same thing. The snow no longer falls. It waits. It hangs in the air like ash, drifting so slowly you can't tell if it's rising or falling. You stop thinking of winter as a season. It's a creature now, patient, quiet, endless. And you're walking through its open mouth. The retreat has turned into something else. Not movement, not even escape. It's survival by repetition. Left, right, boots scraping ice, breath fogging, freezing, vanishing. You used to count kilometers. Now you count steps. And when you lose count, you start again. Because counting means you're still here. Do you think time exists in places like this? Or does it freeze too, somewhere between the breath you take and the one you forget? The lieutenant's cough is worse. He hides it, but everyone hears. When he stops walking, you all stop, not out of obedience but reflex. He points west, then keeps moving. The map's been useless for days. You navigate by exhaustion. Your boots are lined with straw now. A trick learned from a captured Russian who smiled as he showed you how. He's dead now, but his trick lives. Small mercies survive longer than men. The wind has a voice again. Not language, just tone. Sometimes it sounds like whispers. Sometimes like laughter. Sometimes like your mother calling you in for dinner. The way she used to before everything went white. You walk faster when that happens. You find a farmhouse half buried in snow. The roof has collapsed. Inside, frozen furniture, a clock stopped at 4:17, and a single boot print by the door that isn't yours. You stare at it for a long time. It's small, too small to belong to a soldier. A child's maybe. It points toward the back door, out into a field swallowed by ice. You step outside, following it, 1, 2, 3 paces, then it disappears. The snow has erased everything. Do you think footsteps mean anything in a place that devours them? Would you still leave a trail if you knew the world refused to remember it? You camp that night beneath the wreckage of a wagon. Someone lights a candle. It flickers weakly in the wind. You huddle around it like pilgrims worshiping a dying god. The man beside you, Becker, hums a tune. Soft, familiar. You recognize it, an old waltz from home. He says nothing, just hums. You find yourself swaying barely to the rhythm. For a moment, you could almost be in a ballroom. Almost. Then the candle dies. The dark presses close. You listen to your heartbeat, slow, steady, tired. You think of Becker's tune and realize something strange. You don't remember how it ends. The melody stops halfway, looping forever in your head. Maybe it's better that way. Endings don't belong here. Morning comes like an apology, pale light bleeding through the clouds. The cold is sharper today. Your breath crystallizes midair. Tiny shards of glass that never touch the ground. You keep moving. One man collapses behind you. No one turns around. The lieutenant mutters, "He's resting." You nod. That's the only way to make it make sense. By midday, the wind shifts. It carries a smell, wood smoke. You freeze, all of you listening. The first real sound in hours. Could it be a village? The camp? Or another trap waiting to swallow the desperate? You argue quietly. In the end, the cold decides for you. You follow the smell. Through the trees, you find it. A small cabin, half collapsed, roof blackened. Inside, nothing alive. Just the remnants of a fire and a metal pot crusted with ice. Still, you feel relief. A place, a roof, something that isn't wind. You sit. You don't talk. You just exist. Do you think survival is supposed to feel like this? Not triumph, not relief. Just the slow permission to keep breathing? The lieutenant pulls a match from his pocket, lights it, watches it burn down to his fingers. Doesn't flinch. Keep moving, he whispers. You nod. Because what else is there to say? Outside, the world waits. Silent, white, eternal. You step back into it. Your footprints already filling with snow. Boss, if you were here, would you still move forward? Knowing every step you take disappears behind you? Would you find meaning in walking? Even if the road never remembers your name? Because on this march, the world doesn't end with thunder or fire. It ends one footprint at a time. Quietly, perfectly, under snow that forgives everything except forgetting. The forest thins and suddenly the road appears again. If you can call it a road. A long scar of ice and ruts, cutting through snowbanks taller than men. At first you think you're alone on it. Then you see them. Trucks. Dozens of them. Some still upright, others tilted into ditches. Their tires sunk deep into frozen mud. You stop walking. So does everyone else. Because there's something wrong with the silence here. It feels crowded. The lieutenant gestures. You move forward slowly, rifles ready, though you already know there's no one left to shoot. The first truck you reach is covered in frost. You wipe the windshield with your glove and see a face staring back. A soldier, hands still on the steering wheel. Eyes open, lips blue. Frozen mid-drive. You step back. Your breath catches. The frost on the glass almost makes him look alive, as if he could blink at any second. The next truck is the same, and the next, and the next. An entire column, caught by winter and held in place like insects in amber. Some still gripping rifles, others curled up in the backs of trucks, blankets half pulled over their shoulders. Time stopped here, completely. Do you think death remembers the moment it happened? Or does it just pause like this, waiting for someone else to finish the story? You climb into one of the trucks. The air inside is brittle. Your boots crunch on shattered ice. On the seat, a small photograph. A woman and a child, smiling. The corner is burned. You slip it into your pocket without knowing why. At the back of the truck, a crate has burst open. Cans of rations scattered like dice across the floor. You pick one up. It's frozen solid. The lieutenant steps beside you. He whispers, "They never had a chance." You nod. You don't ask who he means. Them or you. Snow begins to fall again. Soft. Relentless. It settles on the truck roofs, on the faces inside, on your shoulders. For a moment, you imagine the convoy moving again. Engines rumbling, gears grinding, men laughing. But the sound that comes instead is wind, pushing through open doors, whistling across empty seats. You light a match. Just one. Hold it up inside the cabin. The flame dances in the glass reflection. For a second, it looks like the man in the driver's seat is smiling. Then the flame dies. You step back into the cold and realize the line of trucks stretches farther than you can see. A frozen army. An unmarked graveyard. You whisper, "Winter won." The lieutenant hears you. He doesn't argue. Do you think war ever truly ends? Or does it just freeze between battles, waiting for the next army to stumble into it? You keep walking, past more trucks, more faces, more ghosts. One of the men finds a crate of boots, half buried in snow. You trade your own for a pair that almost fits. They're too tight. You don't care. By evening, you make camp near the last truck. You sit by the wheel, listening to the wind move through the empty convoy. Sounds like breathing. Sounds like confession. The lieutenant opens a bottle of vodka he found in a glove box. He passes it around. Each man drinks once. No toasts. No words. The bottle empties and you all just stare at the trucks in silence. One by one the lights go out. Lanterns dimming, fires dying. The night reclaims everything. You lie back in the snow, your head against the frozen tire, your breath fogging upward like prayer. You look at the stars. They seem closer tonight, as if they're watching. Do you think the stars pity the earth, or are they just waiting for their turn to fall? Your eyes close, your body shakes, and the last thing you hear before sleep takes you is the sound of wind. whistling through the convoy, a long, low note that could almost be a hymn. Boss, if you were here, would you keep walking past the frozen, knowing someday others might walk past you the same way? Would you see death as defeat, or just another form of stillness? Because on this road, even the dead keep watch. They don't look at you with hatred, just patience, the kind only winter understands. You smell it first, sharp, sour, alive. After weeks of nothing but rot and smoke, the scent hits you like thunder, a memory of kitchens, of home, of life that used to taste. You stop walking. So does everyone else. The lieutenant lifts his head, sniffs the air, and for the first time in days, his eyes almost look awake. The source is a half-buried cellar. You pry open the door with the butt of a rifle. A rush of cold air spills out, along with that smell. Inside, a wooden barrel rimmed with frost. You scrape away the ice and lift the lid. Sauerkraut. An entire barrel of it. Real food. For a moment, no one moves. You all just stare, as if looking too hard might make it vanish. Then Becker laughs. A strange, high-pitched sound that doesn't fit this place. He plunges his hand into the barrel, pulls out a handful of the pale strands, and stuffs them into his mouth. He chews. He swallows. He starts crying. You don't even wait. You reach in too. Cold, crisp, sour. A shock to the tongue, the kind of flavor that hurts. But it's real. It burns your throat like life returning. Do you think joy can be this small? A handful of cabbage pulled from the edge of starvation? Would you weep for food, if it tasted like remembering who you were? The lieutenant joins you. No rank, no rules, no order, just hunger. You all eat with bare hands, passing the barrel around like communion. Someone jokes, finally, a German victory. The laughter that follows isn't pretty, is broken, cracked, desperate, but it's laughter, and that's enough. You eat until your stomach hurts, until your throat burns from vinegar, until you can't tell if the tears on your face come from the cold or the taste. Then silence again. A heavy, holy kind of silence, the kind that follows worship. You sit back against the wall, breathing hard. Your hands shake. You feel something strange moving through you, not strength, not warmth. Something gentler, something like forgiveness. Do you think the body remembers gratitude even after the soul forgets? Can flavor be prayer? The lieutenant wipes his mouth, then takes the last handful from the barrel. He doesn't eat it. He sets it aside. For the ones behind us, he says. You nod. You all nod, because it feels right to leave something behind. Later that night, you light a fire, small, careful. Its glow paints everyone's faces in gold. For the first time, the light doesn't feel violent. It feels alive. Someone hums the old waltz again. Soft, off-key. You close your eyes and imagine the tune drifting through a quiet street back home. Through open windows, past sleeping children, the way it used to. The lieutenant pours the last drops of vodka into a tin cup and raises it. To the sauerkraut, he says. Sounds absurd. It sounds perfect. You all drink. The alcohol burns like summer. The taste lingers like memory. You fall asleep with a full stomach. A miracle. The fire crackles low. The barrel sits beside you, half empty but somehow infinite. The smell seeps into your coat, your hair, your dreams. You dream of home. The kitchen, the steam. Your mother's voice asking if you want seconds. You wake up smiling. Then you remember where you are. The fire's out. The smell is gone. The cold has returned. You stand, shoulders stiff, stomach aching, and look at the half-buried door one last time. The barrel's still there, half covered in frost, half sacred. You whisper, thank you, to the food, to the silence, to whoever left it behind. Boss, if you were here, would you still believe in miracles that come too late? Would you thank the world for a meal it almost forgot to give you? Would you cry for a taste that reminded you you're still human? Because in the dead of winter, redemption doesn't look like glory. It looks like a barrel of sauerkraut buried under snow, and the laughter of men who aren't sure if they've been saved or teased by God. The next village is almost gone. Not burned, emptied. Like someone lifted all the people out and left only the silence behind. The houses lean inward, roofs sagging under the weight of snow. Chimneys poke through the drifts like gravestones. You walk through the main street, boots crunching softly, rifles low. No sound but wind. No movement but flakes. Then a door creaks. Everyone freezes. You turn. A shape stands in the doorway of a small cottage, wrapped in gray shawls, barely human at first glance. Then she steps forward. A woman, old, thin, small as a shadow. Her eyes dull but alive. Her lips blue from the cold. She's sweeping her porch. Not defending it. Not hiding. Just sweeping. No one speaks. You stand there like statues. She glances up at you, then back to the broom. The slow, steady rhythm continues. Scrape, push, lift. It's so absurd that for a moment you want to laugh. Instead, you lower your rifle. The lieutenant approaches her carefully. He says something soft, cautious. "Frau, you should go. It's not safe." She doesn't answer. She keeps sweeping. Brush, brush, brush. When he takes a step closer, she stops, looks at him for the first time. Then she speaks. One word. You don't understand it. Russian maybe. But her tone says everything. Go. The lieutenant nods. You all stand there, unsure what to do. Then she reaches into her shawl and pulls something out. A small piece of bread, hard as stone. She holds it out. For a second, no one moves. Then Becker steps forward and takes it. He says, "Danke." She nods. That's it. Exchange complete. No hatred. No kindness either. Just a transaction between two ghosts still pretending to be alive. Do you think mercy has a language, or does it just recognize itself when it sees it? The woman turns back to her porch. You turn away. You start walking again. Behind you, the sound of the broom continues. Steady, eternal, uncaring. The snow thickens. You glance back once, just once, and see her still there, sweeping around her feet, as if clearing a space for spring that might never come. You imagine she's done this every day since the war began. Maybe she sweeps for the memory of her husband. Maybe for the illusion of control. Or maybe she just wants one corner of the world to stay clean. You whisper to yourself, "She's stronger than we are." No one disagrees. That night, you camp in a barn outside the village. The roof leaks. The wind moans through the cracks like a broken flute. You can't sleep. You keep hearing it, the soft rhythm of the broom. Brush, brush, brush. Like a heartbeat under the snow. You close your eyes and see her again. The gray shawl, the empty eyes. The small figure moving against the endless white. It feels like something between grace and madness. Do you think sanity can survive when the world around it dissolves? Would you keep sweeping if everything else was already gone? The lieutenant says quietly, "She'll die there." You nod, but you don't pity her. You envy her. She has a purpose even if it's hopeless. You just have motion. Morning comes. The village is gone behind the curtain of snow. No footprints. No smoke. Only wind. You start walking again. And though you don't see her, you hear the broom one last time. That soft, defiant rhythm, carving meaning out of nothing. Boss, if you were here, and found someone still sweeping the ruins of their life, would you tell them to stop? Or would you join them for a while? Just to remember what it felt like to keep something clean? Because sometimes the smallest act, a sweep, a gesture, a crust of bread, isn't resistance against war. It's resistance against forgetting. Starts with the sound. Not thunder, not gunfire. Melting. A slow dripping, a quiet sigh. Snow collapsing into itself. Ice turning soft. You wake one morning and the world is different. The air smells of wet iron and rot. The white has turned to gray. The snow is dying. At first you think it's good news. The cold is easing. You can feel your fingers again. You can breathe without pain. But the thaw brings its own punishment. The ground beneath you starts to move. Not water, not solid. Something in between. Mud. Endless mud. Your step sinks. Each pull drags. The earth itself has decided to swallow you slowly. The retreat slows to a crawl. Boots vanish mid-stride. Wagons tilt and drown. Men curse, shout, dig. Then fall silent when they realize the mud doesn't care. Do you think mercy ever comes without a price? Would you thank the sun for warmth if it came only to remind you how heavy the world is? You march through fields that used to be snow plains. Now they're brown oceans, thick and endless. Every movement is a negotiation with the ground. You don't walk anymore, you wrestle the earth. Your uniform is soaked. Your rifle clogs. Your hands blister where the cold used to numb them. You'd kill for the frost again, at least the frost was still. The lieutenant trips and sinks knee-deep in sludge. You pull him out. He doesn't thank you. He just stares at his boots, ruined beyond repair, and mutters, "At least the dead don't have to walk." No one laughs. A few men try to take shortcuts through the fields. You hear their cries minutes later, then silence. The mud doesn't echo. It absorbs. By midday, your legs are shaking. The march has become rhythm without purpose. Lift, drag, sink, pull. Each step costs something you can't name. You spot a farmhouse on a rise. Half-sunken, roof caved in. Inside, you find what's left of a kitchen. Pots, cracked tiles, a child's drawing on the wall. A house, a sun, two smiling figures holding hands. The colors are faded but still visible. You stare too long. Do you think the earth remembers the laughter that used to echo here? Would it matter if it did? You find a tin cup, dented but whole. You scoop water from the puddle outside. It tastes of rust and soil. You drink anyway. That night, you camp on higher ground. The mud below you glistens in the moonlight like a black sea. You can hear it move, a slow, slurping whisper, as if the land itself is hungry. You dream of drowning without water, of sinking in silence while the sky watches and does nothing. When you wake, the mud has crept closer. The horses are gone, only the rope lines remain. The lieutenant says nothing. He just stares east, where the rising sun paints the horizon the color of copper and blood. You realize something. The world is thawing, but the war isn't. It's just changing form. From frostbite to fever. From ice to rot. Do you think the earth itself is trying to bury the war? Or is it simply tired of holding so much blood? By the second evening, you reach a ridge overlooking the plain. From here, the landscape looks like a graveyard for seasons. Winter melting into spring that never asked to be born. The road ahead glimmers faintly under the sunset. You know it's not dry. You walk anyway. Because movement is all that's left. Because even drowning feels like progress. Boss, if you were here, would you keep walking if every step tried to pull you down? Would you call it courage? Or just refusal to let the earth decide when you stop? Because the truth about mud is this. It doesn't hate you. It just doesn't care. And sometimes that's worse. When the snow melts, the dead return. Not as ghosts, as shapes, as reminders. The land begins to give back what winter buried. You see them first at dawn. Pale hands reaching through the mud. A boot half swallowed by earth. A helmet sitting upright like someone placed it there carefully. The road ahead is lined with them. Skeletons in tattered coats. Frozen faces now soft and gray. Some German. Some Soviet. Most too far gone to tell. No one speaks. You just walk. Careful not to step directly on anyone, though sometimes you can't help it. Each crunch beneath your boot feels like breaking history. Do you think the earth remembers who started this war? Or does it only remember the weight of bodies pressed into it? The smell is the first thing that hits you. Sweet, sour, thick, like rust and rot and rain all mixed together. You press a rag to your mouth, but it doesn't help. You taste death through the cloth. You pass a wagon still hitched to its horses, both frozen where they fell. One horse has its head buried in the mud, as if trying to drink from the ground. The other still wears a harness chewed through by rats. You look away. You look back. Nothing changes. The lieutenant mutters, "We fought to take this road once." You nod. You both know what it cost. You start recognizing landmarks. A signpost split in half. A shell crater where your friend once joked about digging a garden after the war. He's probably here somewhere now. Part of the same soil he wanted to plant. A soldier behind you whispers a prayer. Another tells him to stop. Not out of disrespect. Out of fear that praying might make it real. You wonder, can a road have a soul? If so, what happens when it's paved with the dead? The farther you go, the more there are. Arms locked around rifles. Faces turned toward the sky. Some with eyes still open, staring upward as if waiting for spring. You step over a frozen shape holding a book. The cover is gone. The pages are fused by water. You can't read the words, but the gesture. A book clutched to a chest. Feels human. Painfully human. By midday, the air grows warmer. The ground bubbles. You see flies again. Tiny black swarms dancing above the mud. Life returning, but not the kind you prayed for. One soldier vomits. Another curses the sky. The lieutenant just walks faster. You ask yourself, when does a battlefield stop being won? When the fighting ends, or when the memories do? You come across a wooden marker, barely legible. Here rests the unknown. Below it, a rusted helmet balanced on a stick. You fix it so it doesn't fall. It feels like the only act of decency left. That night, you camp beside the road. You can't sleep. Every time you close your eyes, you see faces in the mud, not accusing, just waiting. The wind moves through the broken trees and makes the helmets ring faintly, like wind chimes in a forgotten garden. Do you think the world can ever be clean again after something like this? Would you want it to be? Cleansing means forgetting? You wrap your coat tighter. The mud sucks softly at your boots when you shift. You whisper the only thing that feels honest anymore. I'm sorry. No one hears, but maybe that's enough. Maybe apologies are just meant to exist, not to be answered. The next morning you move on. The road stretches west, long, straight, and endless. Behind you, the wind scatters dust across the bones. Ahead of you, nothing but gray horizon. You don't know where it leads anymore. You just know you're still walking. Boss, if you were here, would you keep your eyes down? Or would you look at every face the war tried to erase? Would you step carefully, or run until the road forgot you too? Because on the Eastern Front, there's no clear line between the living and the dead. Only distance, only movement, only this, the road of bones. It appears out of the fog like a dream that forgot how to fade. Engines, trucks, dozens of them stretched along the road, their metal bones half buried in ice. At first you think they're still alive. Shapes of men behind the windshields, hands gripping the wheels, helmets tilted just right. But when you get closer, you see they haven't moved in weeks. The convoy froze mid-retreat. Engines locked, wheels fused to the earth. Men inside sitting like statues, faces pale and perfect under frost. One still wears goggles. Another has a cigarette burned to the filter between his lips. The ember must have died the same second he did. No one speaks. You move among them slowly, like walking through a photograph. Do you think time ever stops for the living, or only for those who can't go further? Someone opens a truck door. The hinge screams, and a gust of frozen air rolls out. The smell of diesel, leather, and something that used to be human. Inside, 3 soldiers are huddled together. One still clutches a thermos. You twist the cap. The liquid inside is frozen solid. A perfect sculpture of warmth that never reached their mouths. Behind the trucks lie horses, still in harness, eyes glassy, hooves encased in ice. You realize they froze while standing. No one had the strength to cut them loose. The lieutenant says softly, "They must have stopped for the night." You nod, but you both know better. Out here, night isn't what kills you, it's waiting. You move further down the line. A tank rests at the end of the convoy, its barrel aimed uselessly toward the horizon. Inside you find the crew still seated. Driver, gunner, commander, all frozen mid-motion. The commander's hand is raised, a gesture that could be an order or a plea. You lower your torch. Feels wrong to shine light on them, like interrupting a prayer. Do you think ghosts remember the moment they stopped moving? Or do they just keep marching inside their own silence? One of your men finds a crate in the back of a truck. Bread. Rock hard, frostbitten, but bread nonetheless. You divide it. Eat quietly. Feels like stealing from the dead. You do it anyway. You find a diary too, written in neat, precise handwriting. The last entry is dated 3 weeks ago. It reads, "Fuel gone, cold worsening, waiting for orders." Then nothing. You close it and slide it back under the driver's coat. Some things shouldn't travel with you. By dusk, fog drapes over the convoy again. The trucks fade into gray silhouettes. The men inside seem to breathe when the wind passes through cracks. For a moment, you imagine they'll wake, start their engines, wave you forward. You shake the thought away. You're too tired to dream for other people. When you make camp, the convoy is still visible in the distance, a jagged line of memory frozen in place. You stare at it until the night swallows it whole. The lieutenant breaks the silence. "We'll end like that, won't we?" You don't answer. Not because you disagree, because there's nothing left to add. Do you ever wonder how people will find you when it's over? As a name? A photograph? Or just another shape in the snow? The wind rises. Snow flurries dance around the trucks. They look like they're moving again. Slowly, endlessly, like ghosts retracing their last journey. You whisper, "They're still on the road." And for the first time, you mean it literally. "Boss, if you were here, and found a column of men locked in time, frozen in their final breath, would you walk past them in silence? or stop to tell them that the world kept turning without them. Because sometimes the dead don't need graves. They just need witnesses. And tonight that's you. By now, direction is a rumor. Maps have stopped making sense. Signs are buried, names are gone. Even the stars hide behind clouds. You follow the road out of habit, not belief. The compass in your lieutenant's hand spins like it's drunk. Needle twitching, unsure whether north still wants to exist. He shakes it, taps it, curses it, then finally puts it away. Follow the smoke, he says. But the smoke drifts both ways. Do you think the world itself gets lost sometimes? When too much blood soaks its soil. You pass through what used to be a village. The houses are hollow, burned down to their skeletons. In one, a crucifix still hangs on a blackened wall. You touch it without thinking. It's warm. You don't ask why. Your boots squelch through mud and ash. Every path looks the same, gray, broken, infinite. The road splits in two. No one knows which is west. The lieutenant points left. Someone else points right. No one argues. You pick one at random. Half an hour later, you realize you've been here before. The same fallen cart. The same shattered window. The same crow watching from the post. You laugh, a dry, broken sound. Maybe we're walking in circles. The lieutenant doesn't answer. He's too busy staring at his useless compass. One man claims he hears church bells. Another swears he sees lanterns in the trees. You see nothing, but you start to hope they're right. Because hope, even false hope, still burns warmer than fear. Do you think the mind invents comfort to keep the body walking? Would you want to know if what you see isn't real? Or would you rather believe for one more night? The fog thickens. Your world shrinks to 10 meters of vision. Boots, rifle, breath, what? That's all that's left. Someone begins humming again. A tune you don't recognize, but you join in anyway. The sound becomes your guide. The melody feels safer than maps. Hours pass, or maybe days. Time has dissolved like sugar in rain. When you finally stop, you find yourself standing at a crossroads. 4 paths all the same. No markers, no signs. Only a single wooden post with one word carved into it. Zurich. The lieutenant stares at it for a long time, then says quietly, I think we've already been going back. No one argues. You just sit in the mud, letting the exhaustion swallow you. You try to remember what direction Berlin even is. West. The concept feels absurd, like asking which way the sky faces. You take out a scrap of paper, draw lines that mean nothing, arrows pointing nowhere. For the first time, you admit it to yourself. You're lost. Not geographically, existentially. Do you think a man can lose his way before he loses his life? Or is that how the end always begins? Night comes. The fog glows faintly from the moon above, turning the mud silver and the trees into ghosts. You close your eyes and whisper your name, just to hear something that still belongs to you. It sounds wrong. It sounds foreign, like a word from a language that's dying. Somewhere behind you, a soldier says, My compass points east now. No one laughs. No one corrects him. You lie down beside the broken road, the wooden post watching over you like a gravestone. You trace the word Zurich with your finger until you fall asleep. And for the first time in months, you dream of standing still. Boss, if you were here, and your compass spun endlessly, if every road led back to where you started, would you keep walking? Or finally stop and let the world move without you? Because sometimes being lost isn't about direction. It's about remembering what you were trying to find in the first place. You find it by accident. Half buried in mud beside a collapsed barn. A strip of color in a world that has forgotten color. A ribbon. Sky blue. Torn, frayed at one end. Fluttering faintly in the wind. You kneel, brush away the dirt, and pick it up. It's nothing. A child's hair ribbon maybe. But it looks wrong here. Too clean. Too soft. Too alive. The lieutenant asks, What is it? You say, Luck. He laughs, once short, tired, then stops. You tie it to your rifle. The blue catches the light for a second. Feels almost sacred. Do you think objects can hold memories? Or do we just pour our own into them, trying to make meaning where there's none left? That night, the wind howls through the trees. The ribbon flutters gently, a heartbeat against the storm. One of the younger soldiers points to it. Sarge, maybe it's a sign, he says. You shrug. Then let it be a good one. No one argues. They just stare at it. Something about that little flash of blue makes everyone a little quieter, a little less hollow. The next morning you march again. Every step feels the same, mud, pain, breath. But now there's a streak of color moving with you. You start to notice others looking at it. Some even smile. A rare, fragile thing. Do you think hope has a shape? Could it really be this small? A torn ribbon on a dead man's rifle? The lieutenant eventually stops and says, "Maybe we should all carry one." No one mocks him. No one hesitates. By dusk there are rags and threads, tied to bayonets, straps, even helmets, bits of cloth scavenged from uniforms, from maps, from pockets. The colors don't match. Some are red, some brown, some gray. But together they look alive, like a line of men still trying to be human. You start to believe the ribbon might actually work, not as protection, but as reminder that not everything beautiful has to vanish first. That night, the shelling starts again. You drop behind a ridge, mud spraying, earth shaking. When it ends, 2 men are gone, 3 wounded. The blue ribbon still flutters from your rifle. One of the wounded men grabs your arm and whispers, "It's lucky. Don't lose it." You nod. You don't believe in luck, but you believe in him believing. And that's enough. You stay awake long after the others sleep. The moon is faint, the world silver gray again. You stare at the ribbon, watching it move with the breeze, and realize something strange. It doesn't make you forget the war. It just makes the war bearable for another hour. Do you think that's what faith really is? A lie we tell ourselves that becomes true, simply because we need it to be? By morning, frost has returned. The ribbon is stiff now, frozen midwave. You touch it and it cracks slightly, but the color remains. Still blue, still impossible. You start walking again. Each step feels the same, but the ribbon sways with the rhythm, as if keeping time for those who can't anymore. A soldier beside you mutters, "If we make it home, I'll keep mine on the wall." You nod, because deep down, you already know, none of you will ever see home the same way again. Boss, if you were here, and found a single piece of color in a world of gray, would you tie it to your weapon, or hide it away for yourself? Would you call it hope, or superstition wearing a beautiful disguise? Because sometimes survival isn't about food or fire. It's about believing that even here, in the mud, in the ruin, in the endless gray, something still shines blue. You reach the river at dusk, wide, dark, silent. The current crawls beneath a skin of mist, thick enough to look solid, until a piece of driftwood slides through it like a ghost. The bridge is half gone, wood splintered, steel twisted. One end collapsed into the water. The other barely clings to the bank. It creaks when the wind touches it. You're ordered to hold it, not cross it, not rebuild it. Just hold it, whatever that means anymore. The lieutenant unfolds his last map. It's soaked, torn, useless. The river isn't even drawn on it. He laughs quietly. Guess it didn't exist when this was printed. Do you think maps can lie? Or do they just stop telling the truth? When the world changes too fast, you dig in along the bank. A handful of rifles, one MG42. A few crates of ammo that feel like sandbags against a flood. The fog thickens, and with it comes that sound. Low, distant, steady. Engines, they're coming. You check your rifle, run a thumb over the blue ribbon tied to the barrel. Still there, still fluttering, still defiant. The first shells hit the far side of the river. Columns of water leap skyward. The bridge shudders, screams like something alive. The lieutenant shouts, "Hold your fire until they cross." But the order feels strange now, like a ritual from an old religion no one believes in. Shapes emerge from the fog, figures in white, moving low and fast. Soviets, you can't count them. You don't try. You open fire. The muzzle flash blinds you. The recoil numbs your shoulder. The sound eats the world. For a few seconds, it feels like everything that's left of existence is gunfire and breath. Then silence. The fog swallows it all again. You reload. Wait, nothing. No movement. Only the hiss of the river. Someone whispers, "Maybe they stopped." You don't answer. You know better. The next wave comes harder, closer. Grenades arc through the fog like brief suns. You duck. Shrapnel bites your cheek. You taste metal and blood. The lieutenant shouts something. You can't hear what. You just see his mouth move, his arm raise, then his body vanish in smoke. Do you think courage can survive without orders? Or does it die the moment command does? You keep firing until your weapon jams. You grab another, then another. You don't count bullets anymore. You just listen for the rhythm of the fight. The bridge collapses another meter into the water. Wood groans, steel snaps. For a moment it looks like it's bleeding. Then, the Soviets stop. The fog thickens again. You can't see them. You can't see anything. The silence returns, but it's not peace. It's exhaustion given form. You crawl behind a crate, press your forehead to the mud, and let your hands shake. You don't even try to stop them this time. Do you think fear ever leaves the body? Or does it just change shape? From running to hiding to trembling? When dawn comes, the fog lifts, the bridge is gone. The river runs black with ash and oil. You're still here. So is the ribbon. So is the silence. You count your men. There are fewer now. Much fewer. The sun rises behind the smoke, turning it gold for one terrible, beautiful second. You realize something as you watch it. You didn't hold the bridge. You just outlasted it. Pause. If you were here, and the bridge beneath you was burning, crumbling, falling into black water, would you run? Or would you stay? Just to prove you could survive one more sunrise? Because sometimes survival isn't a victory. It's a confession that you were too stubborn to die when the world asked you to. The night fades without warning. No bugle, no order, no gunfire to mark the change. Only light, soft, colorless, spilling over the horizon like water. You wake to the sound of wind. Not artillery, not footsteps, just wind. For a moment you think you've gone deaf. Then you realize the world is quiet because there's nothing left to break it. The river is calm now. Smoke drifts upward in thin, graceful lines. The bridge is gone completely. Its remains carried downstream to wherever forgotten things go. You sit on a stone, rifle across your knees. The blue ribbon still hangs from the barrel, mud-streaked but bright, like a memory refusing to fade. You look around. No lieutenant, no squad, no movement, just you, and the sound of your own breathing. Do you think silence is peace, or just another kind of noise that comes when everything else stops? You take off your helmet. The air on your scalp feels foreign. You hadn't realized how heavy the weight had become. Not the metal, but the habit of wearing it. You look at your hands. They don't shake anymore. They just exist. A crow lands nearby, black wings glinting in pale light. It watches you without fear. You toss it a crumb from your last ration. It hops closer, pecks once, and flies away. For a moment, you envy it. You wonder what day it is, what month, if Berlin still stands, if home still means anything. You pull a small object from your pocket, a tin whistle. You'd forgotten it was there. You raise it to your lips, but no sound comes. Your breath is too weak, or maybe the world is done listening. You smile anyway. Do you think survival means winning, or just learning how to exist after losing everything? The sun climbs higher. The snow begins to glitter again. Not cruelly, not like before. Just quietly, as if the world itself is exhaling. You close your eyes. You don't dream. You just see colors. Blue, gray, gold, blending together until they stop being separate things. When you open them again, you notice the smallest detail. Your boots are off. You don't remember removing them. Your feet rest in the grass. Actual grass. Not mud. Not ice. Soft. Alive. You breathe. Once. Twice. And for the first time since you can remember, you don't think about marching, or fighting, or orders. You just let the air fill your lungs, and stay. The sky above you is pale blue, the same shade as the ribbon. You think, maybe that's where it came from. You whisper your name. It sounds lighter now, more real, more yours. And then you stop talking altogether, because there's nothing left to say, and because, finally, you don't need to. The wind moves through the ruins, carrying ash and birdsong together. Somewhere far away, a train whistle echoes, soft, lonely, almost kind. You tilt your head toward the sound. You don't rise. You don't follow. You just listen. Do you think endings ever really end? Or do they just turn into quiet places, where the noise finally gives up? The sun warms your face. The ribbon trembles once, then goes still. And for the first time in forever, you are not afraid, not cold, not waiting, just here. The last dawn of the Eastern Front breaks over a world that has forgotten your name, but remembers your steps. That's enough, boss. If you were here, and the war finally fell silent around you, would you cry, laugh, or simply sit in the grass until the light touched your face? Because maybe the truest victory isn't surviving the war, it's surviving yourself.